spoilers because, hello there, dear viewer. Welcome to my humble abode. I hope you're having a fine, whatever day of the week it is right now. Now, ever since I began my perilous journey on YouTube, I've had quite the amount of fun. But I've been thinking, and maybe it's time I do something more. Maybe it's time for me to do something that, in a way, culminates from some of the other videos I've made along the way. Now, can you guess what I've decided to make in order to fulfill that goal? That's right, my top 5 best and worst horror movies of all time. How'd you know that? Oh, you looked at the title of the video before you clicked on it. Huh. So you're a fucking cheater is what you're telling me. Hello, awesome people on the internet. Welcome to another epic video. So I really wanted to make another ranking video, but I also didn't really feel like watching a whole lot of movies from another big franchise. So I went to the old workshop and kept thinking and thinking until Eureka! What if I talk about my 5 best and worst horror movies of all time? And huzzah, the concept was born. Even though I guess in order to make this video I had to rewatch a lot of the movies on this list, but that's neither here nor there. I've actually really wanted to make this video for about a while, but never got around to it. But I then realized if I don't do it soon, it'll kinda interfere with some other stuff I've got planned, so, you know, why wait? Now, allow me to be very clear. This is not an objective list in any way or capacity. This is essentially just my 5 favorite and least favorite horror movies. That's it. This is not some grand list of the all-time greatest and non-greatest cinematic experiences. I'm just a fucking guy. Also, if I'm being honest, there are a lot of horror movies that I just straight up haven't seen. Like, dude, I haven't even seen Hereditary, and that movie is like on every single person's list. Maybe I should watch it. Meh, too lazy. This list is not final in any way. In fact, ideally, it'll become more and more inaccurate as my glorious YouTube career continues. The main purpose of this video is really just to establish my current stance in the wonderful world of horror movies, as well as discuss a certain few movies that I haven't really gotten the chance to yet. Oh, also, expect me to bend the rules a little bit when it comes to how I rank these movies. I'll explain more once we get to what I'm talking about, but for now, again, take this with a grain of salt. But also, I mean, it's like my opinion, and I think my opinion's pretty cool, so, you know what? 2 grains of salt. No, 3. Yeah, confidence is key. Am I right, ladies? Alright, enough dilly-dally. I, the Crusader, with 3 R's, proudly present to you my top 5 best/worst horror movies of all time. The f*** is even in this? Boo! You stink! Imagine with me, if you will, the wonderful world of 2020. Australia was burning to a crisp. They were putting the president inside some sort of peach, and we were all excited to get 2 weeks off school thanks to that good old Rona. Oh, how naive we were. Picture little 14-year-old me sitting on the couch in my living room, turning on the TV, and watching VHS 1 and 2 for the very first time. Imagine how giddy I must have been. A bursting ray of sunshine in my eyes, a smile from ear to ear, my whole body just radiating with joy. Now, imagine that joy being fucking obliterated when I learned that at the time, the final VHS movie, the 9th symphony to this grand franchise, was none other than VHS Viral. Oh! Ew! Dude! What the f***? Yeah, this movie sucks. What a fucking headache-inducing mess. It's like the creators of this movie saw the first 2 VHS movies and decided to make a sequel that was completely and utterly opposed to its own franchise's best attributes. As well as, you know, basic storytelling sense. It genuinely astonishes me that out of 4 stories, one of them being the wraparound, that all of them are terrible. It's just so wild. Usually a movie has only one chance to shit the bed, but to do it 4 times is... well, it would be impressive if it were not outdone by another movie, which we'll get to later. If you watched my VHS ranking video, you'd understand just how terrible every story in this movie really is. But let's go down the list, shall we? Parallel Monsters has a good premise, but terrible execution. Bone Storm is executed well, but has a terrible premise. Dante the Great is a terrible premise, but quite possibly one of the worst executions I have ever seen in any found footage horror movie. The wraparound story, Vicious Circles, is quite possibly one of the worst things I have ever watched. Like ever. The only reason that this movie is just number 5 on the list and not lower is because at least I can have occasional dumb fun here. At the end of the day, I can make the most of this movie's many broken parts. I can hoot and holler at the dumb fun sprinkled throughout Bone Storm. I can laugh at the outlandishly bad storytelling and directing decisions found in Dante the Great and Parallel Monsters. Vicious Circles is... a lost cause. No, seriously, I cannot stress this enough. There is genuinely nothing of value found in Vicious Circles. Like, it is literally nothing but garbage. But yeah, this movie sucks, and I'll probably be talking about it more in a future video. I gave each segment their own ranking in the video I made a while back, but as an overall movie, it gets a 3.5 out of 10. Congratulations, Viral, you are officially the best of the worst. Not that that's saying much. It's like stepping in a pile of dog shit and fishing out your favorite speck. So, if you're one of the few people who have kept up with my channel, then it's no secret that I love found footage horror movies. Like, a lot. I don't know, something about the camera being held by the characters just makes the horrors they go through so much more investing to me. To some extent, it makes it feel like what you are watching is something real. Something you weren't meant to see. Though, while this quality is what makes the found footage genre my absolute favorite, this does come with a certain amount of drawbacks. Mainly being that you don't really get much of a cinematic feel from many of these films. Plus, even I must admit, a large portion of their plots are just, hey, this place is haunted, let's film it, or hey, there's a freaky monster in that freaky place, let's go look at it. The Crusader was never seen again. If you have any information on where he could be, please contact any nearby Pizza Huts. They deserve to know first. But that brings the question, is there a found footage movie with more to it? Something with a bit more substance? Well, in my humblest, but also super correct opinion, yeah. Ladies and gentlemen, allow me to present to you my 5th favorite horror movie of all time. As above, so below. What an awesomely outlandish premise for a found footage horror movie. A team led by an archaeologist trekking through the Paris catacombs and ending up in the pits of hell. That's so fucking bananas, I love it. There are so many great shots littered throughout this movie. It not only keeps the realistic aspect of your common found footage movie, but it also feels like absolute cinema. The characters are, for the most part, pretty good. Scarlett is an awesome protagonist. She's smart, cunning, and overall just gets shit done. Georgie is the man. Just look at him. It's Ben f***ing Feldman. How can you not love Jonah from Superstore? It's just not scientifically possible. Oh my god, when he saw his dead brother in the water below him, that was so f***ing sad. Benji was a good character too. The scene where he gets claustrophobic felt so real. I felt so bad when he got forced to test for fall damage and died. Very tragic. The other characters are also there. They were pretty alright, I guess. Papillion was cool, his death scene was probably the most horrifying scene in the entire movie, but I kinda wish whatever accident he was responsible for had been just a tad bit fleshed out more. I can't pronounce these names. Suxi was pretty one note. She's Papillion's lady friend, I think, but also she dies pretty early on, so her not having much character isn't really a big deal. Zed was also pretty bland, but the actor playing him was pretty charming, so I'll take it, I guess. The atmosphere for this movie is so well done, with numerous claustrophobic scenes that made even me nervous. The ending was so trippy. Them lifting a sewer grate on the bottom of the ground and climbing down it, only to realize realized that it had just brought them to a random street in Paris, the way they go from gravity being one way, then it being the opposite as soon as they leave, that is so cool. And talk about a good ending. It's very rare for a found footage horror movie to have a happy ending and for it to work, but man does it work here. Seeing Scarlett and George confront their own trauma and move on is so satisfying. And Zed was a f***ing deadbeat dad this whole time? Okay. Yeah, I think the one problem with this ending is Zed surviving when his quote-unquote sin is barely even brought up until he confesses it in, like, the final scene. He f***ing abandoned his child. Yeah, he definitely should have been torn to shreds by the cave demons or something. Anywho, besides that, a very cool ending. All in all, this movie is just such a banger, and is one of the first movies I would pick if trying to introduce someone to found footage horror movies. It is without a doubt the most underrated movie in this entire list. Like, it has a 28% on Rotten Tomatoes. 28. That means, according to Rotten Tomatoes, As Above, So Below is a worse movie than VHS Viral, Scream 3, and The Rise of Skywalker, which is f***ing crazy. This movie is not a 28 out of 100 movie in any way, shape, or form. It may not be in many others' lists of top horror movies of all time, but for now, it holds a soft, special spot in the bottom of my cold, unfeeling heart. I can make a separate video on As Above, So Below, and might someday, but for now, it earns its place in my top 5 with its great leads, chilling atmosphere, and impressive blend of found footage realism with cinematic storytelling. 8 out of 10. Yeah, but like, for real, Zed did not deserve to live through that. My official headcanon is after he walks away, he succumbs to a heart attack and dies.
Hey Cartage, do you know Candace? I got that.
Ah, shit. Here we go again. Yeah, Paranormal Activity 6 is the 4th worst horror movie I have ever seen. Luckily, it's still fresh on my mind from my Paranormal Activity movie ranking video, so I didn't really feel the need to rewatch it. By the way, guys, feel free to watch my Paranormal Activity movie ranking video. It's pretty cool or whatever. It's right there. You can just click on it whenever, like, whenever. But yeah, all the points I made in that video still stand here. It's still a boring mess filled with terrible special effects and embarrassing scares. It's still got an abundance of annoying characters that make the stupidest decisions imaginable. Turning the ghost from a mysterious unseen entity to a pile of CGI black gunk is still a horrible idea. How on God's green earth did someone look at this and go, oh yeah, that'll land butts in seats? Oh no, guys, the daughter and the ghost are communicating. Oh no, what's gonna happen to her? I wonder if the ghost will kill the parents and take the child like it did in the other 3 movies where this happens! I have never seen a franchise go through such a de-evolution. It's almost impressive. I mean, I look where this franchise started versus this movie, and it's just night and day. How did we get here? What was the catalyst that sent this franchise hurtling headfirst into its own grave? I really don't want to keep beating a dead horse, so if you want to hear me go into a little more detail, check out my Paranormal Activity video after this. You know, if you're cool. In that video, I gave it a 3.25 out of 10, and yeah, I think that still stands. Okay, now I never want to think about this movie again. Hopefully.
Circus, Afro, circus, Afro, polka dot,
Afro. My lovely viewers, as we share in the gift of life on this big hunk of rock we call our home, we all experience certain milestones from time to time. There's your first job, your first time driving a car, and who could forget the first time you managed to bring all the groceries out of the car in one single trip. Yeah. But there's one milestone, one huge accomplishment that I'll never forget until the day I die. Seeing my first ever R-rated movie in a movie theater. Now, technically the first R-rated movie I ever saw in general was Logan, but it wasn't on the big screen, my dad had just rented it. Plus, I didn't watch the first 20 minutes because for some reason the rental wouldn't go through, but because it was a satellite rental, the movie started playing anyway. I guess that's the one good thing about the new streaming empire. You don't have to adhere to the schedule of the movie you spent money to watch. But anyway, the first R-rated movie I saw in theaters. You see, my mom told me I could start watching R-rated movies as long as I read the entirety of this book she gave me on puberty, which I only read half of and then hid in a cupboard near my bed. Mom, if you're watching this, I'm sorry. Also, can you make me some cookies? Let me tell you, very few movie watching experiences have rivaled how I felt when I took that first step into the lake of big boy horror. And what more of a perfect horror movie to take that step with than It Chapter 1. Damn, has it really already been 8 years since this f***ing modern horror classic hit the screens? This movie is such a fun ride. You've got horrifying visuals, both CGI and practical, a great cast of characters, and one of the most terrifying performances of the 2010s. Aside from the fact that a demonic shape-shifting clown that can only be seen by children is a f***ing crazy good concept, but Bill Skarsgård is Pennywise the Dancing Clown. He steals every scene that he is in with his facial expressions alone. But not only does this movie have a top-tier villain, but the leads are so good too. You've got Bill, Richie, Eddie, Ben, Bev, Mike, the Jewish one. I mean, guys, hello, it's the Losers Club. Could you get even more iconic? And their character arcs are so great. Bill's journey of finally getting over his brother's death and moving forward. Beverly gaining a newfound sense of confidence and kinship among her newfound friends. Mike learns to kill sheep or something. It's all so investing. Henry Bowers is such a hateable bully that when Mike kicks him down a well, you can't help but cheer. The climax where everyone gets over their fears by beating the shit out of Pennywise, it's also so satisfying. I haven't even read the book, but I don't need to. I think it's safe to say that this is probably one of the very few circumstances when an adaptation is better than its source material. Mainly because at least the movie doesn't have a cosmic turtle and a child G. Sweet Jesus, Steven. I don't think you can just blame the cocaine on that one. What more can I say? The acting is superb all around. The setting feels so alive. The cinematography is top notch. Everything is just so well done. This was the first movie I rewatched for this video, and it was so much better than I even remember. In fact, I might rewatch part 2, just because. So yeah, this movie deserves to become an all-time classic. And it's a shame that people don't really talk about it more nowadays. If I had to think of some things I didn't like, well, I kind of wish just a few more things had been done practically instead of CGI. Not all of it, mind you. I just feel like we could have tipped the balance towards practical effects a tiny bit more. Also, there were a lot of deleted scenes that I really wish had made the cut, including a lot of stuff involving Bill's parents, and a scene where Henry is sitting in his car with the bodies of his 2 dead friends. Holy shit. But yeah, this movie is a great time, and it not only goes down in history as my first ever R-rated horror movie, but earns its spot as my 4th favorite horror movie of all time. 8.5 out of 10.
What the f***? Holy s***, dude, what's the matter? What happened? What's going on? There's so much porn!
I like to think of myself as an optimist. One who tries to see the good in others, but sadly, there is a tough pill that everyone, including myself, must eventually swallow. That in this world we live in, there are some truly evil people. And there's not much we can do about it. There are people who lie, cheat, and steal their way through life and face no repercussions. There are people who just spend hours upon hours on the internet spreading numerous immeasurable amounts of pointless hate just because it makes them feel good tearing others down. There are people who launch Star Wars Battlefront 2, look at the vibrant catalog of characters, and choose to play BB-8. And they're just allowed to go anywhere they want. There's no way of cutting off BB-8 players from the outside world where us normal people can live safely. It truly is a dangerous world we live in. Like, really, BB-8? Like you know you're being a dick, right? So why do it? Honestly, choosing any non-saber hero in a regular match has probably got to be the most negative aura thing a human being could possibly do. Like, come on, guys. If I'm decking stormtroopers as Yoda on the forest moon of Endor, I should be scared of Darth Vader, not some no-lifer with 4,000 hours on Bosk launching 500 million nuclear war crimes in my general location. What was I talking about? Oh yeah, evil people. And not many movies show the true effect of evil people more than the ABCs of death. Yep, that's right. Call it recency bias, but this movie is still living rent-free in my head after my previous video all about it. I just don't get it. How in God's name do you have 26 chances to pump out a good story and you can barely do more than 5? It's fucking embarrassing. I really don't want to dwell on this one too much, mostly because, again, I already made a 40-minute video on this entire movie, and also I value what little slim of sanity I still somehow have. Yes, it is still a waste of a genuinely good premise, with most segments being based purely on the concept of someone dying and not going any further to make it more interesting. Yes, it's still full of terrible stories that range from painfully boring to some of the most degenerate filth I have ever been unfortunate enough to watch. Yes, F is for fart is still just a glorified porno. Yes, L is for libido, or whatever the f it's called, is a gross mess that I wish was never made. Yes, the scene in Y is for Young Buck where the old man licked sweat off of a bench that a bunch of kids were sitting on is f***ing disgusting and added nothing to the short but vomit. I think the only opinion I made that slightly changed is I would now give Y for Young Buck a 2 out of 10 because at least the pedophile is murdered at the end. And F is for fart a 1 out of 10 because, I mean, it's just porn. Like, right? It's just straight up f***ing porn. Like, not even subtle about it either. It's just porn. It's just straight up porn. Congratulations, ABCs of Death, to being the 3rd worst horror movie I have ever seen. 3 out of 10. And thus marks what is hopefully the end of me discussing this sad excuse for a feature-length film. Guess it's a good thing something as bad as this could never spawn a sequel, am I right? Oh, god damn it!
What's up?
So, when it comes to horror movies, there is one thing that I must admit I'm not too well versed on. The classics. Now, that being said, I have sat down and gave a few of the major heavy hitters a watch. Mainly Halloween and the Texas Chainsaw Massacre. Now, when thinking of making this video, it felt almost illegal for me to not include a classic horror movie. Well, I thought of these two and considered each one carefully, but soon realized while both were great in their own ways, neither of them really got to me enough to warrant a spot on this list. But then, it finally hit me. The true answer was already on my channel the whole time. Yep, you guessed it. Everyone, please welcome your bronze medalist, Scream. Yep, Scream is still an absolute banger and love letter to the entire horror genre. Starting to sound like a broken record here, but yeah, once again, I have covered this movie on my channel before. But I think in this case, most of you can understand. I mean, it's Scream. Sydney is a perfect protagonist, Billy and Stu are perfect antagonists. All of the side characters are perfectly written. Dewey and Gale have a great romance. In this movie, at least. Ghostface as a killer is one of the most iconic villains in all of cinema. This movie just checks all the boxes. How could you, as a human being, look me in my P&G eyes and not tell me that this movie is just such a good time? If this were a video strictly ranking the classics from before I was born, then it would be at the top. But when it comes to all-time horror movies, there are a few films that outshine it just a little bit. In my Scream ranking video, I gave it a 10 out of 10 because, honestly, at the time I couldn't really find an issue with it, but thinking more on it now, there may be a few little problems I have. Firstly, I think it's stupid how easily Sydney is able to slip away from Billy and Stu once they've told her their master plan. Like, sure, it's probably in character for Stu to get easily distracted by something, but Bill, really? That's your main target there, and you don't do as little as keep your hand on her shoulder? Also, I know this isn't exactly this movie's fault, but it really sucks watching Dewey and Gale get together in this movie, knowing that the writers will take a giant shit on this relationship in almost every sequel. You know, the more I think on it, maybe Scream should have just ended after the 4th movie. Don't get me wrong, I'm a Scream 5 enjoyer all the way, and while Scream 6 struggles in the story department, it does have some great action. But I just can't shake the feeling that things had finally come full circle after Jill and Charlie. But then again, who am I kidding? As long as something makes money, it'll never truly be gone. Even if you fire your main lead because she blew up the internet when she boldly went on Instagram and said those hateful words. Violence is bad? Jesus Christ, we are so doomed as a society. 9.25 out of 10. Absolute banger. Okay guys, before we continue, I need to talk about my next 2 picks on the worst list. Remember when I said I would bend the rules a little bit? Well, listen, I know what you're thinking. Crusader, you ranked the ABCs of Death at 3? But that movie is worse than getting kicked in the balls! Twice! How could any other movie you've willingly watched be worse than this absolute blight to filmmaking? Well, here's the thing. From an objective standpoint, the ABCs of Death is probably a worse movie than the other 2 below it. Okay, it's definitely worse. But when it comes to judging each and every movie, there are 3 words that I want you to think about. Resources, expectations, and emotion. Each story on the ABCs of Death was, from what I could tell, made on a shoestring budget. Plus, I mean, it was a shitty indie movie on Prime Video called The ABCs of Death. In a way, I kinda knew what I was getting into. Besides all the pedophilia and fart porn, I was not expecting that. But either way, you get my point. Plus, the ABCs of Death made me feel such a vast range of so many different emotions. Now, were the vast majority of those emotions negative? Yes, very much so. But at least there was something to be had, something to discuss. Lastly, while it is hard to remember them under all the shit, there were a handful of actually decent segments. All in all, yes, the ABCs of Death is a horrible movie. But there are 2 more movies out there that I would consider a bigger failure in almost every way. These 2 movies are a sickness, a disease, a putrid stain on the beloved horror movie genre. And I know what you're about to say. Oh wow, you found some random indie horror flicks that are even more poorly made. Good job. No! We aren't talking about some grainy slasher flick you could watch for free on some random streaming service you've never even heard of. No. Both of these movies were theatrical films, released from major studios with $1 million budgets. Not only that, but at the time of each of their releases, they were among my most anticipated movies. I was excited to see them, and oh did that make their poor quality feel even more crushing. So, we got resources, we got expectations, and now emotion. Oh, emotion. There was none to be had here. 1, because they had the most formulaic, plot hole-ridden stories I had ever seen, and the other, because the acting was so wooden that I genuinely did not care about anything the characters were going through. ABCs of Death is horrible, yeah, but it was definitely original, and for most of the stories, I wouldn't say the acting was too bad. It may go off the rails, sure, but these 2 movies were never on the rails to begin with. And sure, ABCs of Death is upsetting, yes, but it is my profound motto that there is nothing worse than a movie where you get absolutely nothing. Now, I regretfully present to you the second worst horror movie I have ever seen. I've brought it up quite a few times in past videos. It is, of course, the Five Nights at Freddy's movie. No, I am not kidding. Finally. After all this time, I can finally talk about this absolute dumpster fire. And yet, I don't even know where to begin. Why don't we start with the characters? Or should I say, character. Mike is a complete idiot who learns nothing and gets away with pretty much every bad thing he does. His goal throughout this movie is so fucking dumb. So he constantly goes to sleep so he can dream about the memory of when his brother got taken decades ago. Also, he can try to get a glimpse of what his kidnapper looked like decades ago. And it's like, what would you gain from that? What, are you gonna tell the police what your brother's kidnapper looked like decades ago? Also, for all you know, this guy who took your brother could be already in jail or even dead. You literally will gain nothing from this. Not only that, but he constantly makes horrible decisions and suffers nothing more than a slap on the wrist. Oh, he beats the shit out of some random kid's dad? just gets fired. Not arrested or sued or put in a fucking asylum where he belongs. Just gotta find another job. Oh gee, what a tough break, Mike. What a tough break. Oh, he gets another job, which is very clearly his last chance of remaining employed and keeping custody of his sister, and he immediately goes to sleep on the job. And nope, no consequences, just keeps on going. Oh, Mike gets in trouble with the police. No worries, he just tells Vanessa his crybaby backstory and she immediately falls for him. That's another thing. Mike's abhorrently stupid decisions would be okay if someone called him out on it, but no. The only thing he really gets scolded for is something that isn't even his fault, but all he has to do is go, oh boo-hoo, my brother was kidnapped, and the charges are dropped. And yeah, sure, Vanessa is working for William Afton and all, but wouldn't that give you even more incentive to arrest him? If he's in jail, then isn't the sister free game? Come on! The aunt was, in my opinion, a major missed opportunity. She could have been used to actually call out Mike on how terrible of a guardian he is, but instead, she's too busy being a cartoonishly evil villain, basically forcing us to see Mike as a better parent figure. The sister herself was very annoying throughout the entire movie and had zero chemistry with Josh Hutcherson. I'm telling you, Mike is the only character in this movie. His sister is nothing but a glorified plot device. The aunt is nothing but an over-the-top, mustache-twirling obstacle to root against. And oh god, Vanessa. Vanessa is nothing but a walking pile of exposition, who gaslights Mike into believing all of this is just, you know, normal occurrences, and switches sides more than I switch off Unknown after having one bad match. God damn it, behavior. Why do you always give the coolest killers the weakest powers? But yeah, she was genuinely one of the most confusing parts of the entire movie. But for some reason, Mike is suddenly head over heels for her before the final act, even though they did not bond in any way, save for a fucking pillow fort montage, but whatever. The animatronics actually look pretty good. Until they start moving. And you know, I'm sorry, but it just looks like people in costumes, okay? I'd say for the most part, Foxy is the only one that actually acts robotic, but even he's got his own problems. Plus, their eyes were way too expressive, and it just made them look even less scary. Anytime they did their stupid eye squints at someone, I just thought of this. The cupcake being the absolute MVP throughout the movie was very stupid. Shouldn't Freddy be the one that does the most damage? It's not like the movie has his name in it or anything. Now to talk about this guy. I can't believe I'm saying this, but William Afton has to be the weirdest addition to this entire movie. Like, it genuinely feels like they had already made the script for the movie without him, but then for some reason went, oh wait! We need to have the big bad Springtrap guy. Never mind the fact that he's not even in the first game to begin with. Oh, we'll just shoehorn him in during the final fight, no worries. But then he'll only be in the climax. We gotta give him more screen time. Let's just make him Mike's career manager for some reason and like, show him as a drawing. But wait, if we only have him as the villain in the climax of the film, wouldn't that not only downplay all of the horrific actions from the other animatronics, but also underwhelm the audience as a whole, seeing as we are being told this guy is the real big bad, even though we haven't really seen him specifically do anything evil? We'll have the exposition lady just tell Mike that he's pure evil. That's just as effective. Boy, aren't these decisions I'm making so great and awesome? Matthew Lillard looks genuinely bored throughout this entire movie. He is literally given so little to do. They turned one of the most menacing video game villains of our time into a dumb brute who gets defeated by the power of friendship. The spring-locked failure scene is one of the worst adapted things I have ever seen in my entire life. He genuinely sounds like he's trying to take a shit as he dies. Out of all of the ways for his suit to be activated, it's the fucking cupcake that does him over. The fucking cupcake. Why does he say I always come back before he dies? What does that mean? What the fuck is he talking about? Yeah, I know it's the thing he says and everything, but what does it mean here? What do you mean you always come back? You just got here. You've barely came as it is. Why in God's name did they shoehorn this line here when it makes absolutely no sense? Wouldn't it make more sense if he said this in the sequel? You know, when he actually comes back? This is the movie equivalent of premature ejaculation, and I fucking hate it. I hate it, I hate it, it's so stupid. I fucking hate it. This movie sucks, it's so bad. F this piece of shit movie. God, I need a breather. I'm sorry, this movie just makes me so heated. I need some footage of monster trucks to cool me down. Oh, that's better. I'm going to Monster Jam in a few months. I'm so excited. I go every year. Apparently the new monster truck they're bringing is a f***ing skateboard. What a mess. Alright, where was I? I mean this from the bottom of my heart. The Dead by Daylight FNAF DLC is a better Springtrap adaptation than this movie in every possible way. Even Matthew Lillard does a better job in that game, which is f***ing crazy. This movie is even more frustrating when you realize that the reason it took so long to make, the reason we waited like a decade for this film, is because they kept throwing out drafts of the screenplay. So, that means out of all of the scripts they wrote for this movie, this was supposedly the best one. I have to see those other drafts, dude, because if they were somehow even worse than what we got, they must be on a whole nother level of dog shit. I promise you, someday in the distant future, I will make a separate video dissecting every single awful decision made in this film because trust me, I've only scratched the surface. If I had to choose anything actually positive, it would definitely be Josh Hutcherson's performance. He's a good actor, and you can tell he's genuinely trying to make the most out of the horrible material he was given. Besides that, well, the MatPat cameo was pretty cool. It's incredibly forced, sure, but at least it was funny. The lawyer guy made me chuckle a little bit. Yeah, that's it. There is just nothing else to like here. I'm sorry. So yeah, the Five Nights at Freddy's movie does its best to bedazzle fans with hordes of nods and references to its popular source material. But sadly, no amount of fan service can make up for embarrassing scares, laughable characters, and a story that angers me to my f***ing core. 2 out of 10. And yet, even after all that, there is still one more movie that is somehow even worse. But frankly, I'm a little exhausted from that, so let's talk about something good first.
What would you do if you saw me at the red light and I honked my horn at you and we made eye contact and I said to you,
Jordan Peele's Nope is a truly remarkable movie. I have been in love with this film ever since I watched it. It truly does an insanely good job at making you uncomfortable and uneasy. Every single character is played perfectly. OJ and Emerald are great main characters, and not only have really sound chemistry, but you also feel for both of them whenever they occasionally bump heads. Stephen Yeun as Ricky was phenomenal. I loved seeing his traumatic past and watching him process it in such a fatally wrong way, leading to his eventual demise. God, it's just so good! Keith David is perfect in every scene that he's in. All of the other side characters, from Angel to the filmmaker, they're all so good. Jordan Peele does such a great job subverting your expectations, making you think that what our characters are facing is just a bunch of little green dudes in a spaceship, but it's not. It's an animal as wild as any of their horses, and it all comes full circle so brilliantly. The Gordy scene, oh my god, the Gordy scene. Now, I've been scared by movies before, I'm not made of stone. Though, with how many movies I've watched at this point, I must say I'm a bit desensitized, especially when it comes to seeing it in an actual movie theater. But that Gordy scene, god, that was rough. I was so incredibly uneasy throughout that entire scene. It really goes to show that you can have all the flashiest gore and the grossest kills, but it'll never even compare to good direction and cinematography. The scene where all of the people get slowly digested by Jean Jacket was just as horrifying, if not even more. The fact that you can still hear everyone screaming from outside his stomach. Need I say more? The way they defeated Jean Jacket was really smart and, again, really made everything come full circle. Never mind the fact that Jean Jacket turns into a fucking ethereal specter or whatever this shit is. But yeah, Nope is genuinely a near perfect film. It deserves countless videos analyzing it, albeit probably from someone a little smarter than me. Like, I talk about goofy indie found footage horror movies. This is definitely a little above my expertise. But still, I can recognize that this is truly one of the all-time greats of the decade so far. If I had to say something negative, I mean, I guess the sister was a little annoying at times, but I mean, that's really it. This is genuinely one of the closest instances I've ever seen of a perfect horror movie. One that not only has deeply developed characters, but multiple scenes that leave you completely horrified. So, yeah, Nope is a true marvel when it comes to storytelling, acting, and cinematography, and should not only be recognized as one of the best modern horror movies ever made, but also be hailed as an utter classic for decades to come. I hope this movie never stops being talked about, and I am truly excited for Jordan Peele's next horror venture. Congratulations, Nope. You are my silver medalist, and the second best horror movie I have ever seen. 9.75 out of 10.
Epic battles of history. Eminem. Slenderman. Yo, what's up? I'm Eminem, and you're right.
Well, here we are. After constant battles, constant suffering, we finally made it to the very bottom. I know the movies we've talked about already are quite bad, but this one is a whole different level. This movie is so unbelievably bad, it's almost not real. Yeah, you heard me right. There exists a movie out there more confusing than VHS Viral, more idiotic than the Ghost Dimension, more disappointing than the ABCs of Death, and has a story so incomprehensibly bad, it's even worse than the Five Nights at Freddy's movie. Something that checks every box when it comes to being an outright terrible film. Something so against everything a horror movie should stand for. Something that no one in their right mind should ever pursue. Not because it's gross or anything, but simply because it has such a horrible story, such a horrible cast of characters, such a lame, uninteresting, sad excuse for a villain, that it all just, honestly, it almost doesn't even feel real. Ladies and gentlemen, allow me to present to you the worst horror movie I have ever seen. It is, of course, 2018's Slender Man. So you guys remember earlier when I talked about milestones? Well, this was another one. This was the first movie I ever watched that I fucking hated. Like, no joke. This movie broke my little 13-year-old movie watching innocence and made me finally ask the big question. Movies can be bad? This movie is so unapologetically bad that it almost feels surreal. Every character in this movie has the personality equivalent of a wooden plank. One of the girls has like a dad who drinks, I guess, and that's really the only thing I remember. Towards the beginning of the movie, one of the main characters goes missing, but it's executed in one of the worst ways I've ever seen. She looks over at the woods, and then it just cuts to the rest of the characters looking for her like, gee, I can't believe she went missing. This is without a doubt one of the darkest movies I have ever seen. Like, not plot-wise, I mean it's literally so fucking dark. I can't see a thing half the time. It's like they turned the brightness down all the way. Though, maybe they did that so they could hide the absolutely abysmal CGI. The way they quote-unquote summon Slender Man is just a worse version of the tape from The Ring. Except the video they watch is not nearly as creepy or unsettling and had so many flashing lights that I had a headache for the rest of the movie's runtime. At one point, they go into the forest to summon him a different way or something, and they are told by their friend to not take their blindfolds off. And so, of course, one of them takes off their blindfold almost immediately. Gee, I'm so fucking glad I'm following these characters. They sure are fucking investing. I'm honestly trying to think of more things that happened, but truly, the plot is so non-existent. I don't even know what else to say. At one point, I thought the movie was actually going to be interesting. So right before the final act, the main character's little sister gets sick, and she finds out that her friend took her sister out into the forest and got her affected by Slender Man as well. I thought at first this was going to be a cool twist, that the friend traded her friend's little sister for her own life, and got herself freed from Slender Man's grasp. But nope! Turns out that happened before Slender Man even started terrorizing them, and she just did it because, why not? That's so crazy. That's so fucking crazy. You had the perfect setup for a great reveal, and then you just shot yourself in the foot for no fucking reason. And then Slender Man just barges in and drags the friend off anyway, so whatever. I feel like he could have done that any time, but maybe traffic was bad, who knows. Then the main girl runs into the woods and faces off with Slender Man and tells him to take her. I guess to trade her own life for her sister's. At this point, I thought maybe the movie would end on a somewhat bittersweet note, seeing the main character sacrifice herself for her own sister, but then, as Slender Man gets closer, she just starts fucking running. Why? You just told him to take you. What the fuck are you doing? Now he has no reason to honor your deal and is probably gonna go after their sister next. What the fuck is wrong with you? I genuinely was rooting for Slender Man throughout this entire movie, because all of these characters were either completely blank canvases or just straight up stupid and unlikable. There are times where this movie genuinely feels like the actors just made the story up as they went along. There is no direction, no development, and the scares are either dog shit or you literally can't see them because the screen is so fucking dark. This movie is literally just nothing. Pure, unadulterated nothing. It's not even fun to pick it apart. It's just a sad mess. At least the Five Nights at Freddy's movie is bad in a sort of iconic way, but this is just nothing. I might make a video on it someday, but I don't even think it'd be good because it wouldn't even make me angry. It would just make me depressed. Slender Man is such a nothing villain in this movie, man. He's barely in it, and when he is, he either barely does anything, or yet again, it's just too f***ing dark. That's not even to mention the fact that this movie came out like 5 years after Slender Man stopped being culturally relevant. It would be like today if they released a movie on Siren Head or fucking Momo. Yeah, remember Momo? I would rather listen to the fucking Momo song for 2 hours straight than watch this movie again. It would genuinely drive me less insane. If I had to say something actually good about this movie, I guess Joey King's acting was admittedly pretty good. She definitely should have been the main character instead of this lady, who was shockingly the least developed of the entire main group. I really hope Joey fired her agent after this, but looking at what she went on to do after this movie, I really doubt it. But yeah, the Slender Man movie is not only a terrible watching experience, filled with editing that makes you want to unplug your TV, characters that are as bland as a soggy Burger King French fry, a monster who is scarcely in the movie that's f***ing named after him, but it is also a complete and utter failure. One that aged terribly before it even came out. It's not funny bad, it's not infamously bad, it's not insultingly bad, it's just bad. It is the physical embodiment of nothing, a void where emotion and entertainment go to die. And for that, it wins the grand prize as the single worst horror movie I have ever seen. 1 out of 10.
I got a Glock in my Rari. 17 shots, no 38.
She's fine. Wonder when she'll be mine. She walked past. I press rewind to see that ass one more time when I got this soda.
Ladies and gentlemen, the #1 best horror movie I have ever seen is... Oh, what do you know? It's a 6-way tie! Come on, you really expect me to pick a singular favorite horror movie when there's 6 great VHS movies out there to choose from? If you followed my channel, this really shouldn't be a huge surprise. After all, my most popular video is on the VHS franchise, so it's a bit of a no-brainer. These movies are without a doubt my favorite piece of horror content I have ever seen. I mean, come on! Whether it's 1, 2, 94, 99, 85, beyond, they all just f***ing slap. Except Viral. They were all filled with such amazing segments, filled with endless entertainment. Even the weaker segments are some of my favorite things to watch ever. Except for the ones in Viral. It is filled to the brim with excellent filmmakers who, in my eyes, have become immortalized through their additions to this movie. As long as you don't think of some of their, previous work. Amateur Night is the best horror content I have watched ever. It is truly some terrifying shit. And then you've got Safe Haven, Storm Drain, Slumber Party, Alien Abduction, Total Copy, and like half the segments and beyond. How am I supposed to pick a single movie when it's all just so f***ing good? Except Viral. Okay, I think you get it. But yeah, VHS is my true bread and butter, and the reason I love found footage horror movies so much. Because it does such an excellent job at not only showing you such horrifying villains and monsters, but making it all somehow look like genuine real carnage. I would rather sit down and watch all 6 of these movies in one day than watch any of the movies on the worst list once. And sure, while the other movies on my best list are great, none of them compare to the joy and horror I get from this perfect bundle of horror-themed shorts. They all get to share the gold medal, because overall, I give these 6 movies a 10 out of 10. And say it with me, everybody. Hail Radma. Okay, like, only 2 of you said it with me. What the fuck? Well, we made it to the end. We certainly had our fair share of ups and downs, but I'd like to say we came out of this journey a better group of people. And maybe some of y'all now have an urge to try out some of these movies if you haven't seen them yet, which I of course recommend. As long as you don't watch the Slender Man movie, I swear, you will literally feel your heart trying to escape your chest. That's how boring it is. Oh, and also, don't watch the ABCs of Death. I know I only put it in 3rd, but like, ugh, that movie is just so gross. You shouldn't have to put up with that. I would say don't watch the Five Nights at Freddy's movie, but then again, it's the fucking Five Nights at Freddy's movie. Chances are you've already seen it. And chances are some of you are writing an essay in my comment section on why I'm wrong and that the Pillow Fort scene is the best written scene in all of fiction or something. I don't know. Also, I know I kind of cheated with that last one, but I mean, come on, it's VHS. I'm obsessed with all of these movies, and I'm supposed to pick a favorite one? That being said, while I still stand by the vast majority of my rankings in my VHS segment ranking video, as well as my review of VHS Beyond, I do feel like there's more of a discussion to be had on the films as a whole. If only there was someone out there who could rank VHS not just by the segments, but also as overall films. Oh, I know! But anyway, yeah, like and subscribe and all that. Hope you agreed with my list, but if you didn't, that's okay. I guess. Now, if you'll excuse me, I'm gonna go buy 6 more TVs so that I can watch all the VHS movies at the same time, so I can finally experience the franchise in its truest form. Bye! Ugh, look at you. You're pathetic. You really think after all that you put me through in the last movie, I'm gonna even think about watching the sequel? You're barking up the wrong f***ing tree. Because there is not a single thing on God's green earth that could possibly convince me to even consider watching the next installment in this glorified YouTube brain rot of— holy shit, is that Withered Bonnie? I need tickets now.